In the realm where shadows dance beneath the eternal, silver moonlight, there lived a young woman named Alara, a beacon of grace amidst the earthly chaos, a soul that seemed untouched by the weight of the world. She navigated her days through a life uncharted by the common paths of society, her steps almost always silent, as if she were a mere whisper in the vast expanse of existence. The townsfolk, engrossed in the daily bustle of their mundane lives, scarcely noticed her presence, as though she were an apparition, a ghost flitting through their reality. Yet Alara's heart was a labyrinth of profound depths, filled with intricate spiritual pathways that few could fathom. From early dawn until the last vestige of light surrendered to the cloak of night, Alara was a wanderer of the spirit, her senses attuned to the whispers of the unseen. She would often retreat to the ancient grove, a place forgotten by time, where the ground was blanketed with a tapestry of moss, and the air was thick with the scent of earth and the faintest hint of the divine. Here she would sit for hours, knees drawn to her chest, eyes closed, as she listened to the silent symphony of the cosmos. The grove was not merely a sanctuary, but a testament to a sacred covenant, a place where the fabric of reality seemed to fray and permit glimpses of the heavenly realm. The trees' ancient sentinels stood as spires towards the heavens, their branches reaching out like elongated fingers in prayer. It was here, beneath their colossal embrace, that Alara would commune with the divine her heart, an altar where every beat was an offering, every breath a prayer. In these hallowed hours, Alara's spirit would lift soaring beyond the constraints of earthly existence. She would feel the gentle caress of a presence that transcended all understanding, an unearthly touch that whispered secrets of ancient times, secrets meant only for her. These words were not spoken, but felt reverberating through the core of her being, echoing in the chambers of her soul, weaving themselves into the very fabric of her heart. They were God's special word for the chosen one. Messages meant to guide, to heal, to illuminate the path that lay hidden beneath the veil of ordinary life. Yet, in the world outside the grove, Alara's existence was anything but ordinary. She was a specter, a shadow flitting in the periphery of the village's consciousness. Her friends, family, and neighbors knew not the depths to which her soul had plunged. They saw only a quiet girl, a dreamer who spoke in riddles, who moved through life with a kind of ethereal grace that set her apart. To them, she was a ghost ever present, but never real, as if she were but an echo of someone else's life. Her family, though loving, often found themselves baffled by her silences and her odd, almost sacred rituals. They saw her as a beacon of potential, but one untethered to the moorings of their understanding. They whispered among themselves, puzzled by her withdrawal from the world's clamor, her inexplicable aura of otherworldliness that seemed to insulate her from their everyday concerns. Alara, however, felt acutely aware of a disconnect, a chasm that yawned between her inner sanctum and the outer chaos. The divine messages she received were like sacred flames burning fiercely within her, illuminating her path, yet they remained incomprehensible to all but her own soul. They were meant to be a conduit for divine wisdom, a channel for God's special word for the chosen one, but the language was indecipherable to the ears of the unenlightened. As she walked through the village streets, the townsfolk would pass by her, their eyes glazed over with the tedium of their lives, oblivious to the silent symphony playing inside her heart. To them, she was but a ghost, an ignored wraith, living in a world not her own. Yet to Alara, every moment was a sacred convergence, every silence a profound revelation, every breath a step toward understanding the divine enigma that was her life's calling. She was the chosen one, yet her mission was as elusive as it was profound, bound by a covenant with the divine that defied the comprehension of even the most devout. Her life, a pilgrimage of silent introspection, was a testament to the spiritual solitude that came with being set apart, a solitude that was both her prison and her sanctuary, a sacred isolation that shielded her from the mundane, yet left her yearning for the connection that only divine grace could fulfill. In the quietude of her soul, Alara held the promise of God's special word, a promise that, though ignored by all, was an irrevocable testament to her divine purpose. In the shadow of the ancient oak that stood as a sentinel over the forgotten village of Eldergrove, the chosen one wandered aimlessly, the weight of celestial mandate pressing upon their spirit like an unbearable shroud. This was Mirel, the one marked by the divine whisper, the ethereal voice that seeped through the veil of the ordinary, reaching out in the quiet of midnight to reveal truths that others could not fathom. The villagers were oblivious, living in a world of mundane rhythms and mundane dreams, untouched by the spectral call that had awakened within Mirel's soul. Mirel's journey began not with fanfare, but with a profound and haunting silence. In the stillness of a moonlit night, when time itself seemed suspended, Mirel heard a voice threading through the universe, a divine quill inscribing destiny upon the parchment of the cosmos. The words, tinged with divine urgency, were never meant to be uttered in the cacophony of daily life, but were instead whispered into the silence of one soul, destined to carry a perilous truth. They spoke of the coming cataclysm that would cast the world into chaos unless a chosen soul intervened, restoring balance to a fractured world. Mirel felt the burden of this revelation pressing into their bones like a heavy cloak that one could never shed. As the villagers slept, their dreams undisturbed by celestial portents, Mirel walked through the familiar paths of Eldergrove, each step a silent prayer to a God who seemed in this moment profoundly remote. They had been summoned by a call that none could hear but their own, a summons that now seemed as solitary as the stars winking out of existence one by one in the dawn's first blush. The mission was clear in the divine whisper's ethereal script, yet its execution felt like traversing a labyrinth of shadows. This path, fraught with existential peril and tinged with divine melancholy, was theirs alone to navigate. The villagers of Eldergrove, whose simple lives unfolded in predictable cycles, remained oblivious to the world's precarious balance hanging in the balance of Mirel's unseen journey. They smiled, they laughed, they loved, and they quarreled, all the while living in the safe cocoon of their ignorance, untouched by the celestial drama that Mirel now bore. Inside their heart, Mirel felt as though they were a ghost, a phantom of a purpose that none could see. The villagers would look upon them with kindness, their eyes reflecting no understanding of the divine calling. Mirel's spirit felt like it was adrift in a sea of disbelief. Every attempt to share the truth met with disinterest or outright denial. The words that once felt like a divine melody now echoed painfully in their mind, transforming into a solitary dirge played in a void where no one wished to listen. As days turned into weeks, the urgency of Mirel's mission grew more pronounced. The signs of the impending cataclysm began to weave their way into the fabric of normal existence. Strange natural phenomena, dark skies, unseasonable storms, and the ominous silence of nature whispered the same truth that Mirel carried in their heart. These signs, however, remained incomprehensible to the village's inhabitants, who continued their lives with the comforting ignorance that distance from such truths often provides. Mirel's nights were haunted by dreams, each more vivid and desperate than the last, urging them to action. The faces of those they loved would appear in their dreams, their expressions a mix of concern and unanswered questions, as if they were trying to reach out from some distant corner of reality where the divine mandate was a foreign concept. Mirel's days were spent in a quiet struggle, wrestling with a mission that felt impossible, a battle against the indifference of the world. Deep within the forest's heart, beyond the reach of village lights, Mirel found solace in the presence of the ancient oak. It was under its sprawling branches, where time seemed to slow and the universe's whispers grew louder, that Mirel felt a flicker of hope. Here they would commune with the divine message, seeking guidance, yet often finding only the echo of their own silent plea. It was here that Mirel was reminded of the sacred duty entrusted to them, a duty that was theirs and theirs alone, to fulfill a duty that felt like a cross to bear. In the end, the chosen one knew that their path was not one of glory or recognition, but of sacrifice and isolation. As the day of reckoning drew nearer, Muriel's heart swelled with a resolve that could not be broken, even in the face of a world that seemed determined to remain oblivious. Their mission was to carry the silent burden of the divine whisper, to stand as a testament to a calling that would echo through the ages, regardless of the silence that surrounded them. Each step forward, each breath taken, was a silent prayer to the God who had called them, a prayer that transcended the indifference of the world, whispering through the void of silence and reminding Muriel of the sacred fire within their heart, a fire that would not be extinguished no matter how lonely the journey became. In the hushed silence of the early morning, the chosen one arose, bathed in the ethereal glow of dawn that seeped through the thin, almost translucent curtains. Each thread of the fabric seemed to whisper ancient secrets and hidden truths, secrets that felt more significant than the whispered prayers from centuries past. They stood at the window, feeling the weight of an invisible mantle settle over their shoulders. It was a weight, not of mortal flesh, but of an ancient spiritual burden, a divine duty that could neither be seen nor touched, but was felt in every fiber of their being. The chosen one gazed with weary eyes upon the world that lay before them, an expanse of human indifference and ignorance, as if the voices of the prophets, the echoes of the seraphim, were but faint murmurs lost amidst the cacophony of mundane life. They had received God's special word, a call not just to preach, but to redeem, to awaken to enlighten an oblivious world steeped in spiritual slumber. Yet even as the first rays of the sun broke over the horizon, there was a sense of profound solitude, an uncanny isolation, as though they were eternally standing alone as a solitary beacon in an indifferent universe. Their heart, though heavy, beat in a rhythm of purpose. Each day that passed was a day wasted if they did not embark upon the divine mission that had been ordained for them. But the indifference of men weighed heavily upon their spirit, a continual reminder of their isolation. Each face they encountered was cloaked in skepticism and the denial of truths that were as tangible as the air they breathed. It was as though they had been given the torch of divine revelation and were now to traverse a world wrapped in spiritual darkness. Days turned into weeks, and the chosen one wandered through the labyrinthine streets of human civilization, their words falling upon ears that seemed deaf to the voice of the Almighty. They preached in the grand temples and the tiny chapels alike, their voice filled with fervor and untainted by doubt. But always, the response was the same shallow interest, dismissive glances, and the deafening silence of contempt. In their heart, an ancient sorrow began to brew, a sorrow born not from failure, but from the utter and unbearable solitude of their mission. One evening, under a sky painted with the hues of an autumn sunset, the chosen one found themselves in a secluded grove beside an ancient oak. The tree's branches stretched as though yearning for the heavens, its roots intertwining with the very earth, as if to anchor the world in sanctity. It was here that they knelt in silent prayer, pouring out their heart to God, the one who had set them on this path of profound isolation. Why, Lord, their voice quivered. Why must this be my fate? To be the harbinger of your word, yet to walk these paths alone. To awaken the slumbering souls, only to be met with their apathy. The answer came not in words, but in a profound peace that stilled the storm within their soul. For in that moment, they understood that their mission was not solely about bringing enlightenment to others, but also about an inner transformation. A metamorphosis born of their own suffering and loneliness. They were to be a symbol, an embodiment of the divine struggle against spiritual blindness, and in their solitude they were to shine ever brighter. A sense of purpose reignited within them. Each moment of perceived isolation was not a mark of failure, but a crucible in which their spirit was tempered. They were to be the living scripture, the enduring testament to the unyielding quest for divine connection in a world often mired in materialism. From that night forward, the chosen one walked with renewed vigor through the streets and alleys of civilization. They did not just preach the words of God, but lived them with such authenticity and conviction that it began to awaken flickers of consciousness within those around them. Slowly, the shadows of indifference began to recede as individuals found themselves compelled to question the numbness of their own lives. With each step, they carried the mantle of their divine mission, ever watchful for the hidden signs of spiritual awakening within others. Their heart remained ever tender, for they bore within a deep-seated empathy for the human condition, understanding all too well the trials of seeking truth in a world that often disdained it. The journey of the Chosen One was far from simple. It was an odyssey through a landscape of both external and internal battles. Through their unwavering faith, their silent endurance, and their relentless pursuit of divine truth, they became a beacon of hope amid the pervasive shadows of doubt and despair. Their story was not just one of spiritual illumination, but of the profound transformation that could arise from the darkest corners of solitude and the deepest wells of human frailty. And as the years rolled on, the Chosen One's legacy grew, weaving itself into the very fabric of human history, a testament to the enduring power of divine calling, to the unyielding quest for spiritual truth, and to the unyielding hope that even the most isolated soul can become a luminary in the world's darkest hour. In the small, somnolent town of Elderstone, cradled between the brooding shadows of ancient hills and the whispering secrets of the night, lived a man whose soul had been marked by a divine and unspoken burden. He was known as Eli, a figure shrouded in spiritual tension and emotional turmoil. Eli, the Chosen One, felt like a ghost drifting through the fabric of existence, his every breath a testament to a calling few understood and none embraced. His face etched with lines of silent battles and haunted eyes that spoke of unseen wars bore the weight of God's special word, a secret known only to him and whispered by divine breaths in moments of tender solitude. Each morning, as the dawn's first light crept through the narrow slits of his window, Eli would rise, his movements deliberate and almost mechanical. He would stand before an old, weather-worn mirror, the dim light catching the sadness in his eyes. He scrutinized his reflection, searching for a fragment of the divine within the human, a fusion of the sacred and the mortal. Eli's mission, one known only to the Almighty, was an enigma, a mission laden with trials that were invisible to the common eye. It was an odyssey fraught with peril and promise, yet it moved forward in the silence of his heart, driven by a divine decree that felt like an inescapable chain. Eli's days were filled with the mundane, the ordinary, the kind of life that would have gone unnoticed and unremembered had his soul not been woven into the very fabric of the divine tapestry. He labored in the fields, tilling the earth, and listening to the ancient trees whisper secrets only they could understand. His hands, calloused and tired, carried within them the mark of a sacred mission, an unseen force that shaped his every gesture and thought. The townsfolk saw him as a man of simple means, a farmer living a life of quiet piety, but Eli was a man burdened with the weight of the world's salvation. A burden that made him feel as though he were a ghost, an ethereal figure adrift in a world that had forgotten the divine. In the evenings, Eli would retreat to a secluded grove, a place untouched by time and untouched by the mundane. Here, beneath the ancient canopy of oaks, he would kneel and commune with the divine, pouring his heart out in whispered prayers that ascended like vapor into the heavens. He yearned for clarity, for understanding, for some sign that his unseen mission was known, and just perhaps understood by the Almighty. But the grove offered no answers, only the profound silence of nature that echoed the emptiness within him. His soul was a vessel of divine purpose, but the world outside the grove was oblivious. Townsfolk saw him as a man apart, one often found wandering in silence or seated in contemplative stillness. They whispered tales of his peculiarities, of his strange habits, and his solemn demeanor. To them, Eli was an enigma, but deep within his spirit, he carried the knowledge that he was the chosen one, the bearer of God's special word. Eli's days were punctuated by moments of profound clarity, moments when the veil between the divine and the mortal seemed to thin, allowing the whispers of the sacred to resonate within his very being. In these moments, Eli felt the weight of his mission, the urgency and significance of the path he was destined to walk. It was a path paved with invisible trials, each one a step closer to fulfilling the divine decree that was his burden and his honor. The townsfolk often saw Eli's silence as aloofness, but to him, it was a shield, a necessary barrier to protect the sacred knowledge he harbored. They saw him as a man who had withdrawn from the world, but Eli knew that his withdrawal was a necessary act of devotion, a way to keep his divine burden pure and untainted by the mundane. As seasons changed, so did Eli's internal struggle. Spring brought renewal, but Eli felt like a ghost in the midst of rebirth. Summer blazed with fervor, yet Eli's heart was an inferno of unanswered questions. Autumn's harvest was a time of joy for others, but Eli's soul was heavy with the burden of a mission unfulfilled. Winter came, with its bleakness mirroring the desolation within him. Each passing season underscored his isolation, his profound sense of being forgotten, ignored by a world that had no inkling of the sacred purpose that drove him. The years crept forward, each one etching deeper lines into Eli's face, but his resolve remained unwavering. He continued to walk the fields, tending to the earth, and in moments of quiet, he would reflect on the divine word he carried. It was a word of hope, a word of salvation, yet it felt like a heavy stone on his chest, a constant reminder of what was expected of him. In his moments of deepest despair, Eli would turn to the grove, the only place where he felt the divine presence. Here he would kneel, clasp his hands, and pour out his heart to the heavens. "Why must it be me?" he would whisper. "Why must I bear this weight alone?" But the grove remained silent, offering no answers, only the unwavering constancy of nature's embrace. Eli's life was a symphony of spiritual tension, a dance between divine calling and earthly indifference. He carried the weight of the world's salvation within him, a burden that made him feel like a ghost in a forgotten land. But within the depths of his soul, there was a flicker of hope, a belief that one day the world would recognize the divine word he bore, and that his sacrifices and struggles would bear fruit in a way that no one could yet comprehend. And so Eli continued on his silent journey, a sentinel standing at the crossroads of the divine and the mundane. A man who felt like a ghost, but whose heart was a beacon of hope, waiting for a world that had yet to awaken to the sacred word he carried within. The moon hung like a pale sentinel in the velvety expanse of night, casting its silver luminescence upon a world veiled in shadows and whispers. In the heart of the ancient city of Eldoria, a place where time seemed to pause, and the whispers of forgotten gods still lingered in the air, there walked a figure who bore the weight of the divine upon her fragile shoulders. She was Alara, the chosen one, the vessel for God's special word. Yet she felt like a ghost in a world that seemed oblivious, indifferent, and often hostile. Alara's journey began in the dim corners of a dilapidated chapel, where she first heard the soft, beckoning voice of the divine, a voice that spoke not in thundering proclamations, but in tender, insistent whispers that resonated within the chambers of her soul. It was a call that transcended the clamor of earthly existence, a summoning that pulled her from the mundane and thrust her into an existence fraught with divine exigency and human alienation. From the moment she first understood her mission, she carried the burden of God's word with a mix of awe and trepidation. The divine message entrusted to her was meant to deliver salvation and enlightenment to a world steeped in ignorance, despair, and spiritual decay. Yet as she traversed the cobblestone streets of Eldoria, her footsteps echoed hollowly in the silence of a populace seemingly oblivious to her presence and purpose. Every day Alara would rise before the break of dawn, clad in her simple yet sacred attire, and venture to the outskirts of the city where the sacred grove stood. The grove was a place of ancient sanctity, its trees twisted into enigmatic shapes, and its air thick with the scent of blooming spirituality. and forgotten prayers. Here, amidst the whispering leaves and the murmurs of the unseen, Alara would commune with the divine, seeking guidance and strength for her daunting mission. Alara's revelations in the grove were both illuminating and perplexing. The divine word she received was a tapestry of wisdom, hope, and a call to spiritual awakening. It spoke of a coming darkness that threatened to engulf humanity, a darkness that Alara was destined to illuminate with the light of God's truth. Yet as she deciphered the divine script, she felt an increasing chasm growing between her and those she sought to save. In the city, the air buzzed with everyday chatter, laughter, and the hum of commerce. The people moved through their routines, oblivious to the celestial orchestration unfolding in the periphery of their lives. To Alara, they seemed like ghosts unto themselves, trapped in the mundane and blind to the spiritual truth she bore. It was as if the veil of ignorance was too thick for them to see beyond their immediate concerns, too heavy for their hearts to sense the urgency of the divine call. Alara often found herself standing at the crossroads where the world seemed to split between the sacred and the secular, the divine and the mundane. She would reach out her hand in supplication, offering a glimpse of the divine light to those passing by, but most only glanced her way, their eyes glazed over with distraction and indifference. Occasionally, there were skeptics, those unmoved by her presence or her message, and some even spoke of her in scorn and fear. Her heart ached with the weight of unheeded cries and unanswered calls, the pain of being a silent prophet, a beacon of truth in a world that chose darkness gnawed at her spirit. Yet even in her isolation, Alara found solace in the whispers of the divine which never ceased to guide and comfort her. The divine word spoke of resilience, of perseverance against the tide of indifference. One moonlit night, as the silvery glow bathed the sacred grove in ethereal light, Alara experienced a profound revelation. She understood that her mission was not merely to convey a message, but to inspire a transformation within the hearts of men. It was a call not just to the mind, but to the very soul, a summons to awaken the dormant spirit within each person. Determined to fulfill her divine duty, Alara devised a plan. She would weave the divine word into the fabric of everyday life, using art, poetry, and song to reach the hearts of the people. She would become a vessel of inspiration, a bridge between the spiritual and the mundane, a reminder of the divine presence that lay just beneath the surface of ordinary existence. In her workshops, Alara taught the art of sacred storytelling, where each tale was imbued with spiritual significance and the power to awaken the soul. She sang hymns that resonated with the heartbeat of the divine, composing melodies that carried the whispers of God's truth. In these acts of creation, Alara found a new purpose and a renewed connection to those who, though initially blind, gradually began to feel the stirrings of the divine within them. Through her unwavering dedication and the divine light she carried within, Alara illuminated the path for others to walk. Slowly, the shadows of indifference began to recede, and a new light began to shine, a light that spoke not just of salvation, but of hope, love, and transformation. And in this awakening, Alara found her place no longer a ghost, but a radiant beacon, guiding humanity towards the divine light that resided in every soul. Her mission was far from over, but with each step, with each inspired word, and every hopeful heart she touched, Alara knew she was fulfilling the divine purpose bestowed upon her. In the heart of Eldoria, a seed of spiritual enlightenment was planting, nurtured by the chosen one's unwavering faith and the enduring whispers of God's special word. In the ethereal realms where the divine meets the mundane, there dwelled a figure whose mission was inscribed in the cosmos, yet whose heart remained a labyrinth of shadows. The chosen one, whose existence was both a covenant and a curse, was a beacon with a luminescence so profound and it eclipsed the sun, yet whose voice was a whisper in a cacophony of indifference. This lone wanderer, cloaked in the ethereal silk of divine purpose, felt like a ghost adrift in the spectral dance of existence. It began with a whisper that was as ancient as the stars themselves, a secret known only to the deepest of the heavens, a promise made to one chosen for a mission of unfathomable gravity. From the very beginning, there was an unbending conviction that this vessel was meant to bridge the gulf that separates the eternal from the temporal, to articulate the unspoken truths that resonate through the fabric of creation. The chosen one, marked by a divine tattoo that never fades, bore a mark that pulsed with the heartbeat of the cosmos, yet the world remained blind, deaf, and willfully ignorant. So the chosen one traversed through the vast expanses of time with a serene countenance, his steps an echo of celestial rhythms. The mission was not one of conquest or glory, but of revelation and redemption. Every footfall was a testament to the sacred duty laid upon him to bring forth the hidden wisdom that would unfurl like the petals of a cosmos bloom, revealing the divine tapestry to mortal eyes. Yet with each step, the sorrow of isolation grew a silent hymn that accompanied his journey. For while the universe seemed aware of his presence, the ephemeral mortals seemed locked in their own ephemeral dreams, oblivious to the celestial symphony playing just beyond their grasp. There were days when the weight of invisibility pressed upon him, like the celestial void, a crushing reminder that his voice, though imbued with the essence of the divine, was a mere whisper in the ears of those who walked the earth. The chosen one often found himself in silent reveries, seated upon the ancient stones that bore witness to epochs long past, pondering the paradox of his existence. Every atom in his being yearned to share the divine word, to unveil the hidden chapters of the cosmic tome. But the silence that met his words was a cold, impenetrable barrier. And yet there were moments of transcendence, fleeting as a comet's breath, where the veil seemed to thin. These ephemeral glimpses of communion were the chosen one's solace and his motivation, the flickering hope that one day the world would awaken to the divine word etched into his soul. During these moments, he would close his eyes and feel the universe pulse through him, an electric resonance that bridged the divide. It was as if for a heartbeat, the cosmos spoke through him in perfect harmony, and in that fleeting unity, he was no longer a ghost, but a conduit of the divine. In dreams, the chosen one often visited realms that stretched beyond the confines of imagination, where he conversed with ancient seers and ethereal beings who understood the weight of his mission. They spoke in tongues that tasted of starlight and echoed with the music of creation, offering him cryptic wisdom and fragments of prophecy that hinted at the dawn of a new age when the divine word he carried would finally be heard. Yet each time he awoke, the stark reality of his solitude reaffirmed his loneliness, the ache of being the single sentinel of an ancient truth. The chosen one's spirit was a vessel of endurance, a testament to the resilience born of divine purpose. He journeyed through desolate wastes, climbed the highest mountains, and sailed the vastest seas, all the while bearing the immense burden of his mission. There were moments when fatigue threatened to erode his resolve, when the echo of silence began to drown the divine word within him. Yet he would always find a sacred wellspring of strength, a reservoir of grace and fortitude that renewed his spirit. In the quietude of the night, under a canopy of shimmering stars, the chosen one often reflected on the nature of his mission. He pondered the reason behind his isolation, the purpose behind the suffering. It was then that he understood his mission was not merely to spread divine word, but to embody the persistence of faith and the unwavering hope that sustains those who walk a path alone. His journey was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a beacon for those who might one day follow. The chosen one's heart was a compass, always pointing towards the hidden truths that lay beneath the world's surface. He sought to unearth the buried wisdom, to illuminate the hidden paths that led to spiritual enlightenment. His mission was to be the torchbearer in the dark, to shine the light of the divine upon the shadowed corners of the world. It was a mission of humility and sacrifice, a journey marked by an unyielding devotion to a cause that transcended mortal comprehension. And as the epochs turned, the chosen one continued his pilgrimage, a solitary figure in a world indifferent to the celestial symphony that played within him. Yet his heart remained unflagging, steadfast in the belief that one day the divine word he bore would find its way into the hearts of many. Until that day came, he would remain the harbinger of the sacred, the silent shepherd guiding the lost, the unsung prophet of an unheard promise, an eternal sentinel in the vast expanse of the cosmos, forever feeling like a ghost yet ever burning with the divine light of his purpose. The Chosen One's eternal journey was not merely a quest for recognition, but a testament to the enduring power of the divine word, a beacon of hope, a silent plea for the world to awaken to the eternal truth that had been entrusted to him. And in that eternal silence, he found his purpose, an unyielding testament to the power of divine perseverance and the relentless pursuit of the unfound dawn. The moon hung high in the velvet sky, its luminous orb casting an ethereal glow upon the barren landscape that stretched endlessly, a desolate reminder of the world's harsh indifference towards the Chosen One. Enveloped in the silence, the Chosen One felt the weight of invisible burdens, as though an unseen hand incessantly pressed down on their heart, wringing out all hope and joy. Each step was now a burden, each breath a fleeting respite from the omnipresent ache of solitude. In the stillness of night, the Chosen One knelt upon the ground, the rough earth abrading their knees as they sought communion with the divine. They had come to this place countless times before, to this sacred spot, where the earth seemed to whisper secrets of ancient times, where the spirit of the cosmos danced an undulating waltz beneath the firmament. Here in the silent sanctuary, they hoped to find an answer, a sign, some glimmer of validation from a world that had turned its back on them. O God, creator of the universe, do you not see my plight? I am but a speck in your boundless creation, yet I bear the weight of your special word, a word meant for me, meant for the salvation of souls yet unfound. And yet all around me is silence, a deafening silence that mocks my calling. Why am I left in this desolate exile? Am I not worthy, or are my eyes blinded by the shadows of despair? The Chosen One's voice was a mere whisper, yet it reverberated across the heavens, piercing the stillness and seeking the divine ear that had grown so distant. A gentle gust of wind rustled through the nearby thicket, carrying with it the faint scent of dew-kissed pines. It whispered tales of forgotten days, tales that seemed to echo the Chosen One's own forgotten truth, that they were chosen not for personal glory, but for a mission that transcended mortal understanding. A mission to ignite a spark within the cold, indifferent hearts of humanity, to guide them towards a path that few dared to tread. The Chosen One gazed up at the sky, their eyes reflecting the myriad of starlit jewels that adorned the firmament. Each twinkling light was a reminder of the divine blueprint, the intricate tapestry of creation woven with threads that spoke of an eternal purpose. Yet the purpose they clung to, the mission they bore, seemed to render them invisible, an echo of silence within a cacophony of existence. God, they continued, grant me the strength to fulfill this sacred duty. If I am indeed the one you've chosen, then let me not falter in the face of adversity. Let me not be consumed by the whispers of doubt that seek to drown my spirit. Instead, let me emerge as your beacon, a light that pierces the darkness and brings forth a new dawn. Time seemed to stretch and twist the seconds, elongating into an eternity of silent prayer, until a gentle shimmer in the air caught the Chosen One's attention. It was a barely perceptible shift in the fabric of reality, a sign, a promise, an affirmation that the divine presence was indeed near. The shimmer coalesced into a gentle glow, softly illuminating the Chosen One's determined face. For an instant, the world was bathed in a celestial light, a manifestation of their intrinsic connection to the divine. And in that moment, the Chosen One felt an undeniable stirring within, a reaffirmation of their purpose, a divine assurance that their path, though fraught with solitude and suffering, was nonetheless a sacred journey ordained by the Creator. I am your vessel, God, they declared, their voice now strong, filled with renewed conviction. If you have chosen me, then guide my steps, strengthen my resolve. Let my mission to awaken the spirit within the hearts of men and women continue even if I walk alone. Let me be the harbinger of change, the herald of your truth. The gentle glow receded, leaving behind an aura of serenity that enveloped the chosen one. Though the night was long and the path before them fraught with unseen challenges, they arose with a newfound clarity, a clarity that revealed the profound simplicity of their mission to be a light in the dark, a beacon in the storm, a testament to the enduring truth that even in the depths of desolation, there lies a spark of hope, and within that hope lies the promise of transformation. The night air was filled with a renewed sense of purpose as the chosen ones set forth once more, the world around them once more silent yet expectant. With each step, they carried not just the weight of their mission, but also the sacred fire of divine promise, a promise that even the most desolate soul could find meaning, could find hope, could find salvation in the embrace of God's eternal love. And so, under the watchful gaze of a million stars, the chosen one walked forward, their heart aglow with the divine flame of purpose, their path illuminated by the eternal light of the Creator's grace. The chosen one's journey was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a spirit that could traverse the darkest of nights, that could stand unyielding in the face of solitude, and that could still find the strength to emerge as a beacon of hope and divine truth. Their path was fraught with trials that no mortal could fathom, a path that demanded unwavering faith, an unyielding spirit, and an unquenchable thirst for the divine mission. In the weeks that followed, the chosen one traversed vast distances, from the rugged mountains to the verdant plains, from the bustling cities to the quiet villages. Each step was a testament to their resolve, each encounter an opportunity to spread the divine word that they bore within their heart. And though responses varied, some embraced the truth with open arms, others turned away indifferent or skeptical. The chosen one's resolve only deepened. In one small village, nestled within the folds of rolling hills, a group of people gathered around the chosen one, drawn by the serene yet profound conviction in their words. The villagers had long been steeped in a routine that had rendered them complacent, their spirits dulled by the mundane. But the chosen one's words pierced through their dullness, revealing a hidden yearning that had long lain dormant. Listen to me, children of this land, the chosen one began, their voice steady and warm, like a soothing balm upon a restless soul. You are not mere mortals, bound by the earthly chains of habit and routine. You are children of the divine, created in the image of the Creator. Within each of you lies a spark of the divine light, a light that, if nurtured, can illuminate the darkest corners of the soul. The villagers listened, their eyes wide, with a mixture of skepticism and hope. The chosen one continued weaving a tapestry of divine truth, painting a picture of a world where every soul was a beacon of light, where every heart held the potential for sublime beauty and grace. Imagine, they said, a world where every person is a vessel of divine light, where every action, thought, and word is a reflection of the Creator's love. A world where despair is met with compassion, where anger is met with understanding, where every soul is seen and valued. This is the world we are to create through the divine mission you carry within. The chosen one's words resonated deep within the hearts of the villagers, igniting a long-forgotten fire. Some wept, others sighed with a profound sense of awakening, and a few stood up, tears in their eyes, declaring their resolve to embark on this sacred journey of transformation. The chosen one, sensing the stirring within their hearts, felt a wave of divine strength wash over them. They knew that this was but a small step in a much larger journey, but it was a step, nonetheless a step towards the divine mission that had been bestowed upon them. As night fell, the chosen one offered them a sacred ritual, a symbolic act meant to solidify their commitment to the divine mission. They gathered around a sacred fire, the chosen one placing a symbol, a small, intricately carved stone, into the heart of the fire. As the stone began to glow, the chosen one spoke words of divine blessing, invoking the divine presence to bless this act of commitment. By this sacred fire, we commit to the divine mission to spread the Creator's love, to awaken the dormant spark of divinity within every soul. We pledge to be vessels of light, to walk the path of transformation and redemption, and to bring forth a new era of divine grace. The stone blazed with a brilliant light, illuminating the faces of the villagers who, moved by the divine presence, vowed to follow the Chosen One on this sacred journey. The Chosen One felt enveloped by a wave of divine joy, knowing that their work, though arduous, was now supported by a devoted band of souls. The Chosen One's journey was far from over, but tonight marked a significant turning point, a testament to the enduring power of divine truth and the transformative potential of human spirit. Each step forward was now imbued with a renewed sense of purpose. Each encounter, a precious opportunity to continue the sacred mission of awakening the divine within. And so, under the canopy of a starlit sky, the Chosen One set forth their heart aglow with divine promise, their path illuminated by the eternal light of the Creator's grace. They walked forward not as a ghost, but as a living testament to the eternal truth that within every soul, regardless of its current state, lies the profound potential to become a beacon of divine light. In the dim, flickering light of a solitary candle, the Chosen One stood at the precipice of an ancient, forgotten temple, a place where the whispers of forgotten gods echoed through the crumbling halls. The air was thick with the weight of centuries-old secrets and the burden of a mission ordained by the celestial realms. Every breath was a testament to the unseen, an invocation of divine purpose that resonated deep within the marrow of one's being. The Chosen One was a solitary figure, a specter in the world's eye, a silent sentinel who bore burdens unseen by others, a soul touched by the divine, yet shrouded in the cloak of invisibility. The Chosen One felt like a ghost drifting through a world that never spoke their name, a phantom, seen yet never truly present in the realm of the living. To most, they were an enigma, a whisper on the wind, a fleeting shadow in the corners of perception. To the Chosen One, every step was a testament to the weight of God's special word, a word that called them to the path less traveled, a path strewn with thorns of doubt, but ultimately leading to the salvation of souls destined to walk in darkness. The shadows in the temple seemed to dance with a life of their own, as if they too were aware of the gravity of the Chosen One's mission. Each stone in the edifice spoke the silent language of the ages, recounting tales of forgotten epics and lost eons. The Chosen One could feel the ancient power, an electric pulse that coursed through the veins of the temple, intertwining with their own spirit, guiding them as an invisible hand through a labyrinth of divine intent. It was a connection that transcended the mundane, a communion with the divine that was both a burden and a blessing. Every heartbeat seemed to echo the cadence of a sacred drum, a rhythm that spoke of the eternal dance of creation and the inevitable cycles that ruled the cosmos. The Chosen One's heart, though a mere mortal organ, thrummed with the intensity of the cosmic symphony, a symbol of the divine mandate that coursed through their veins. This was a heart that beat not just for the love of life, but for the sacred trust that lay at the core of their existence, a trust that came with a mandate to save, to guide, to restore. In the temple's heart, the Chosen One found a sacred altar, its surface etched with celestial runes that shimmered with an unearthly glow. These runes were not mere carvings. They were the very words of the gods, the glyphs of divine wisdom that spelled out the Chosen One's destiny. Here, amidst the solemn silence, the Chosen One knew that their mission was not just a path, but a calling that transcended time and space, a calling that demanded the utmost sacrifice, the ultimate loyalty to a cause greater than themselves. There was a celestial convergence in the air, a moment when the veil between the mortal and the divine thinned to an almost imperceptible membrane. The Chosen One's spirit seemed to lift, suspended in a moment of divine communion, where the lines of past and future blurred into a singular point of purpose. It was as if the cosmos itself held its breath, waiting for the chosen one to fulfill the sacred edict that had been inscribed in the very fabric of existence. The chosen one knelt before the altar, their hands trembling with a mix of reverence and resolve. The touch of the stone was like a benediction, a tangible affirmation of the divine mandate that rested upon their soul. They closed their eyes, surrendering their very essence to the will of the higher powers, to the intricate tapestry of fate that had woven their existence into the divine plan. As they opened their eyes, the temple seemed to pulse with a collective heartbeat, an affirmation of the divine purpose that now resonated through the chosen one's very being. This was no longer just a solitary quest. It was a divine symphony, a celestial orchestration, where every note, every step aligned with the eternal rhythms of the universe. It was a mission that required the shedding of the mortal shell, the embracing of the divine essence that lay at the core of creation. The chosen one stepped away from the altar, their spirit now indelibly marked by the divine inscription, a beacon of purpose in a world that often seemed oblivious to their sacred charge. They walked through the temple's ancient corridors, each step echoing the rhythm of destiny, the cadence of the divine word that had been given, the word that now pulsed through their veins, a command to illuminate, to restore, to be the harbinger of a new dawn. As the chosen one emerged from the temple's ancient portals, the world outside was bathed in the light of a setting sun, a symbol of hope and renewal. The chosen one felt the weight of their mission, a weight that was both a burden and a mantle of honor. They were no longer just a ghost in the world's eye, a shadow in the corners of perception. They were now a divine instrument, a beacon of light in the shadows of ignorance, a harbinger of the divine word that had been hidden for too long. The journey ahead was fraught with challenges, trials that would test the mettle of the chosen one's spirit. Yet in every trial, there was a lesson, a divine teaching that would guide them towards the ultimate truth. It was a path that required the deepest courage, the unwavering faith, the unfaltering resolve to fulfill the divine mandate. The chosen one moved forward, their heart a drum of divine purpose, their spirit a vessel of celestial light. They understood that their mission was not just a personal journey, but a cosmic quest, a divine symphony that would echo through the ages, a testament to the eternal dance of creation and the divine plan that governed the cosmos. And thus, the chosen one walked the path, less traveled, a spirit touched by the divine, a soul on a mission ordained by the celestial realms. They were now a beacon of hope, a symbol of divine purpose, a harbinger of a new dawn in a world that had long forgotten the light of the divine word. In the quiet village of Eldergrove, nestled within the folds of ancient mountains, lived a soul steeped in the weight of a divine calling few dared to acknowledge. Jacob, with his eyes like the twilight sky, bore an invisible mantle of destiny. To the world, he was an unremarkable shepherd, a man of simple tasks and tranquil days, but within him thrummed a heartbeat that pulsed with a celestial rhythm unheard by mortal ears. From birth, Jacob had been marked by the peculiar gift and burden of hearing God's whisper in the language of the stars. He would often lie on his bed during the quiet nights, gazing at the shimmering blanket spread across the heavens, feeling a profound connection to a realm beyond the veil of earthly comprehension. Every constellation had a story, every shooting star a secret, and Jacob had been chosen to unravel these divine enigmas, to be the vessel through which the Almighty's will would be revealed to the world. Yet the villagers of Eldergrove, with their simple lives and uncomplicated joys, saw no magic in Jacob's nightly reveries. They dismissed his occasional withdrawn moments as a reflection of a troubled mind, not the throes of a soul in communion with the divine. As Jacob's adolescence turned to young manhood, he grew accustomed to the gnawing ache of being ignored, his heart swelling with a sorrow that seemed to echo through the very stones of his village. Jacob's calling was not just to listen, but to act, to bear a message that could bridge the chasm between the sacred and the profane. His mission was to awaken a world lost in the mundane, to remind them of the eternal truths that lay interwoven within the tapestry of their daily lives. Each day was a test of patience, a trial of faith, as he walked the familiar paths through the fields and meadows, tending to his flock, knowing that somewhere within the folds of his heart rested the key to an awakening that could transform the fate of mankind. The burden of his mission weighed heavily upon Jacob's shoulders, a constant reminder that he was not merely a shepherd, but a chosen one, with the weight of an entire world resting on his delicate frame. He often found solace in the ancient texts and the scrolls that chronicled the journeys of prophets whose footsteps he now silently followed. These scriptures spoke of a time when the world would turn to dust before the glory of the Almighty, and Jacob felt the stirrings of that prophecy within his own soul. The moments of doubt were the hardest, the times when the silence of the village seemed to mock his divine connection, to belie the sacred spark that lived within him. It was in these moments that Jacob would seek refuge in the chapel by the river, a modest place of worship that held centuries of whispered prayers and unseen miracles. There on the wooden bench beneath the stained glass windows, Jacob would fold his hands and offer silent pleas to the heavens, praying for clarity, for a sign that his path was true. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Jacob felt the familiar tug within his soul. It was a beckoning, a call that transcended the physical, drawing him towards the ancient oak at the village's edge. Under its sprawling branches, Jacob knelt in prayer, his heart aflutter with anticipation. It was here, beneath the ancient protector of the forest, that he felt the presence of the divine envelop him, a soothing embrace that filled him with unshakable resolve. As the stars began to twinkle above, Jacob was enveloped in a vision, a tapestry of light and sound that revealed the path he was to follow. The vision showed him a world on the brink of darkness, a world that had forgotten the sacred rhythms that once guided its existence. It was a world in desperate need of the message he was chosen to deliver, a world that had strayed too far from the light. Jacob's eyes opened to the cool night air, filled with a newfound purpose. He understood now that his mission was not merely to reveal divine truths, but to rekindle the flames of faith that had dimmed within the hearts of men. He would travel beyond Eldergrove to distant lands and forgotten cities, to every corner of the earth where the light of knowledge could shine anew. As the first light of dawn broke over the mountain peaks, Jacob rose from the ancient oak, the weight of his calling, now a luminous beacon within his soul. He knew that his journey would be fraught with challenges, that the path ahead would be lined with skepticism and indifference. But he also knew that he was not alone. The universe itself was his ally, the divine whisper, a constant guide in the labyrinth of his mission. With each step he took, Jacob left the village behind, carrying with him the hope of a world long lost, a world that needed the reminder of the sacred truths hidden within the folds of their daily lives. And as the world turned beneath the watchful gaze of the heavens, Jacob journeyed on a solitary figure, on a path illuminated by the eternal glow of the divine, forever the chosen one, eternally the herald of a forgotten truth. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting its warm golden hue across the silent town of Eldridge. In the hushed twilight, Alara stood alone on the edge of the crumbling cobblestone bridge that arched over the murmuring river. Her heart, heavy with an unspoken burden, beat a steady rhythm against the backdrop of fading day. She had been known as the Chosen One, a title whispered in reverence and fear by those who understood the ancient prophecies. Yet despite this designation, she often felt like no one else saw her, her mission like an invisible specter haunting her every waking moment. As shadows lengthened and stars dotted the velvet sky, the weight of her divine calling bore down on her shoulders like an unbearable mantle. Each step across the bridge felt like a pilgrimage, her footfalls resonating with the echoes of destiny. Alara's breath hitched a silent prayer escaping her lips as she reached the midpoint of the bridge, where the rails met the stone parapet. In that sacred space, the world beneath her seemed to hold its breath as if in reverence to the weight of her spiritual journey. In the quietude of that moment, she recalled the day she first received the divine word, the prophecy engraved upon her soul. It had come to her in the form of a cryptic vision, an ethereal tapestry woven with threads of celestial light, where she had seen the future of the world, her own role in it, and the inevitable isolation that would come from carrying such a burden. The weight of this prophecy had etched itself into the depths of her heart, rendering her a silent guardian of an ancient truth known to her alone. Alara's eyes closed as she sought the solace that only the divine could provide. She sought clarity in the silence, hoping the spirit of the prophecy would whisper guidance to her troubled soul. In the stillness, she envisioned the world as a map, every soul a point of light connected by invisible threads of fate. In this vision, her path was a solitary line, diverging sharply from all others, destined to lead her through trials that none would see, but she would bear alone. The chosen one's mission, as her heart had come to understand, it was not of glory or triumph, but of quiet sacrifice and unyielding perseverance. She was to be a beacon, a light in the darkness, though her light shone unnoticed. Her true enemy was not the forces of evil that lurked in the shadows, but the indifference of humanity, the willful ignorance that chose to see and believe only what it could understand. As the river's soft murmurs lulled her into a serene state of contemplation, Alara's mind wandered to her mentor, the venerable sage Thaddeus. He had been her guide through the labyrinth of prophecies and portents, a beacon of wisdom and tranquility. Under his tutelage, she had learned the delicate balance between faith and doubt, the unspoken prayer that had to be whispered to the cosmos, and the unspoken understanding that her path would never be an easy one and never fully appreciated. Remember, child Thaddeus had once counseled, the world is often blind to the true light. Your mission, though unparalleled in sacred history, may seem the most lonely. Carry your burden with patience and grace, for the day will come when your light will shine across the ages, and those who ignored it will see its brilliance. These words now seemed like an echo from a distant reality. Here on the bridge of Eldridge, she felt more isolated than ever. Even as she reached the final stretch of the bridge, the weight of her calling felt like an invisible shroud wrapping around her with every step, each footfall causing a tremor in the stone beneath her feet. The river below babbled in a way that seemed almost jubilant, oblivious to the gravity